Hello, everybody out there in YouTube land. Glad to have you with me on this glorious day. Let's see, it's the 11th day of October 2016. It is gorgeous here in Indiana. Going to be a wonderful day. They're saying it's going to get a little over 70 degrees today. Sun will be shining. Going to be a wonderful, wonderful day. Hope it's going to be great weather where you are. News to bring you today, so we're going to hop right on into it. All these articles have the URLs in the description of the video, so you can check them out at your leisure for whatever purposes you have. If you want to do some more research on it or read it for yourself, I'm going to try to bring the news to you here. The first one we have is off of RT.com, and we got WikiLeaks big time in the news today. They've released a second batch of 2,000 emails from the Clinton campaign chair, it says, and there's a lot of news about that. First one here is off of RT, and it says whistleblowing website WikiLeaks released second batch of emails from Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign, Podesta. The new release features 2,086 hacked emails out of the trove that Julian Assange says includes 5,000 messages. Or I'm sorry, let me try that again. Includes 50,000 messages. There we go. It says former President Bill Clinton features prominently in the latest leaks, as highlighted by WikiLeaks' Twitter feed. In one, people close to the power couple pushed for Mr. Clinton, referred to as for William Jefferson Clinton, to be less involved with his wife's presidential campaign due to his extramarital affairs. And there's a quote here. It says, I had a multi-email exchange with someone in the media this morning, a name you would know, who is telling me that there are people close to the Clintons who say WJC's sex life could be damaging for her. A January 2016 email from blogger Brent Badowski to Podesta reads. Another email dated December 2011 from Doug Band, a lawyer who helped create the Clinton Global Initiative, CGI, said that Clinton Foundation Chief Operating Officer Laura Graham was suicidal due to the stress of all of this office crap with WJC and the Clinton Valley Center. Band also called out the couple's daughter Chelsea for not caring about her role in the office problems. Bruce Lindsay said the stress of specifically the office had caused his very serious health issues, as you both know, he wrote. But I'm sure Chelsea is more concerned with a mostly false story in the distinguished New York Post about and Trino, not her role in what happened to Laura / Bruce, what she is doing to the organization, or the several of the stories that have appeared in the Post about her father and a multitude of women over the years. That email wasn't the first time Band expressed dislike of Chelsea Clinton. In an email to Podesta a month previous, he said she was acting like a spoiled brat kid who has nothing else to do but create issues to justify what she's doing because she, as she said, hadn't found her way and has a lack of focus in her life. Between Graham and a senior aide to Mrs. Clinton, Huma Abedin, from November 2011, discusses the Clinton relationship with Goldman Sachs and how it will help the foundation with additional office space. They have an interested party who today just asked for a draft lease, so that is moving quickly on the table for part of the space. So if we want additional space, we need to move quickly, Graham wrote. Goldman, because of the relationship with us, is delaying the draft of a lease for this interested party until they get better sense from us, but they cannot hold them off too much longer. Last March, when discussing putting out a statement or tweet regarding a standoff over an anti-human trafficking bill, that was holding up the confirmation of nominee Loretta Lynch to be Attorney General, Abedin described the relationship between Mrs. Clinton, whom she refers to as HRC for Hillary Rodham Clinton, and Lynch as cordial. Knows Loretta, not extremely close relationship, and don't remember the last time they connected, Abedin wrote. She was in running to be Eliot Spitzer's LG lieutenant governor years ago. HRC wanted Lisa Eve Lynch. Regardless, definitely a cordial relationship. With the nearly 2,100 emails released Monday morning, WikiLeaks has now published more than 4,000 Podesta emails. During the second presidential debate on Sunday, Mrs. Clinton confirmed the authenticity of the messages released on Friday by clarifying comments exposed by the leak. Monday's release covers emails between September 7th and March 2016. So there's that article on it. The next one that I have here is off of Chicago Tribune. It says WikiLeaks releases emails showing tension in Hillary Clinton camp and issues with the foundation. Show consternation among those closest to Hillary Clinton about how Bill Clinton's business dealings might damage his reputation and potentially affect her presidential hopes. The emails posted Monday by WikiLeaks organization also give insight into tension and turmoil within the Clinton Foundation while Clinton was serving as Secretary of State. The chief operating officer of the family charity was reported to be threatening to commit suicide over the stress. WikiLeaks began releasing on Friday what it says are years of messages from the accounts of Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta. Podesta has acknowledged his emails were hacked, but warned the messages may have been altered or edited to do political damage to Clinton. It wasn't immediately clear who hacked Podesta's emails, though. The U.S. intelligence officials last week blamed the Russian government for a series of breaches and leaks intended to influence the presidential campaign. It circulated among Podesta, Chelsea Clinton, and former close Bill Clinton aide Doug Band detail internal tensions that simmered inside the Clinton Foundation and appeared to have played a role in Band's departure from the family charity. Internal concerns among Clinton family imitates about Band and the private corporate advisory firm he co-founded, Teneo Holdings, have been previously detailed in several media accounts, but the new emails provide raw glimpses of an apparent power struggle between the Clinton's daughter and Band, who worked closely for Bill Clinton for more than a decade after the end of the Clinton administration. An email exchange from December 2011, Chelsea Clinton tells Podesta and others, including Clinton advisor and current Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, that she's increasingly concerned about Teneo. Includes a forwarded news article that alleges that former President Bill Clinton had collected $50,000 a month through Teneo from MF Global, the commodities brokerage formerly run by New Jersey Governor John Corzine, while MF Global was preparing to file for bankruptcy. Chelsea Clinton tells Podesta and others that two people separately came up to her at a London event for the Clinton Foundation to raise concerns someone representing Teneo clients had been calling members of the British Parliament on behalf of President Clinton without her father's knowledge. Chelsea Clinton said people in London making comparisons between the profit motivations of the former president and the former Prime Minister Tony Blair. My father, Chelsea Clinton wrote. Band wrote in an email that Chelsea Clinton seemed more concerned about critical news coverage about MF Global broker and Band's advisory firm Teneo that published reports about Bill Clinton's infidelity. I realize it is difficult to confront and reason with her, but this could go too far, and then real serious set of other problems. Band vented in an exchange sent to Podesta. I don't deserve this from her, and respect. She's acting like a spoiled brat kid who has nothing else to do but create issues to justify what she's doing because she, as she said, hasn't found her way and has a lack of focus in her life. The emails reflected the ascendance of Chelsea Clinton as early as 2011 inside family charity. The younger Clinton recently was anointed as the Clinton Foundation future leader if her mother wins the presidency next month. Bill Clinton announced in August that he planned to step down from the charity's board if his wife becomes president. Chelsea Clinton will remain on the organization's board. Bill Clinton explained in a letter to supporters in August that he would resign and stop raising funds for the charity to eliminate legitimate concerns about potential conflicts of interest. From the Clinton Foundation in Virginia, where banned works, received no immediate response Monday. December of 2011, Clinton Foundation Chief Operating Officer Laura Graham contacted Band to complain that stress she blamed on the former president and Chelsea Clinton was causing her to consider suicide. Band wrote that when Graham called him, she was in her car parked near the water with her foot on the gas pedal. He said he dissuaded her from hurting herself. She called me to tell me the stress of all this office crap with WJC, and as well as that of her family had driven her to the edge, and she couldn't take it anymore, Band wrote in an email to Podesta and Cheryl Mills, then Hillary Clinton's chief of staff. Graham later departed the Clinton Foundation, taking a new job with the state of New York. Phone messages left for Graham on Monday received no immediate response. So there's that one. The next one that we have here is off of Breitbart.com. And waiting for it to come up here so I can do this one. It says WikiLeaks dump. Clinton takes credit for freeing Chinese dissident who said U.S. gave in to Beijing. In private speech 2013, Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton reportedly took credit for the liberation of Chinese dissident attorney Chen, calling it one of those moments where you have to think hard about what America really stands for. Chen later accused Clinton, then Secretary of State in Washington, of giving in to the communist Chinese government and nearly abandoning him when he asked for political asylum. The excerpt from the speech, allegedly to attendees of the Jewish United Fund of Metropolitan Chicago Vanguard Luncheon in October of 2013, is part of a larger document dump posted online by WikiLeaks last week. More searchable version of the private speech database on Monday. Over the weekend, Democrats did not affirmatively deny the veracity of the document in question. Clinton running mate Tim Kaine told CNN, "I don't think we can dig in documents dumped by WikiLeaks and just assume that they're all accurate and true." He did not elaborate. In the speech in question, Clinton says she had a part in helping a blind Chinese dissident get safety in the American embassy in Beijing, negotiating with the Chinese to get him and his immediate family out of China. That was one of the moments where you have to think hard about what America really stands for. So when I got a call late one night saying that Chen Ching had escaped from his house where he had been under house arrest, he'd been picked up by sympathizers and he was on his way to Beijing and he wanted safety in American embassy, who said, "Don't do it. We will totally destroy our relationship with the Chinese government." WikiLeaks quotes Clinton as saying, allegedly made those remarks 2 years before Chen would write his memoirs, The Barefoot Lawyer, about his escape to the United States. But 1 year before Clinton had published her own memoir, Hard Choices. In that book, Clinton also took credit for freeing Chen, writing that she and other American diplomats did what Chen said he wanted every step of the way. Chen's version of the events in his 2015 differs significantly from Clinton's. Chen, who worked as an attorney in China defending women and the government forced to have abortions as part of its one-child policy, had been placed on house arrest for years due to his activism. In 2012, he escaped house arrest and fled to a U.S. embassy. There, he demanded political asylum for himself and his family. No one seemed to be putting pressure on the Chinese Communist Party, Chen wrote of his experience at the embassy. Instead, they were dumping of weight on my shoulders to get me to do their bidding. Suddenly, I was overcome by sadness and wept. So many people on both sides will be working so hard to get me to leave the embassy, my rights or my family's safety, he added. Of the Obama administration, he wrote in his book, What troubled me most at the time was this: when negotiating with a government run by hooligans, the country that most consistently advocated for democracy, freedom, and universal human rights had simply given in. He wrote, attempted to pressure him into staying in China under the auspices of the Chinese university, even after being invited by New York University to work on campus. Cheng agreed to stay in China after what he described as immense pressure, but later recanted and demanded a seat on Hillary Clinton's flight out of China. She was visiting the nation in May of 2012. Clinton did not take Chen with her. Chen left a few weeks later on another NYU invitation and has lived in the United States since. So there's that information. The next one we have is off of regated.com, and it says here, WikiLeaks, Hillary Clinton is privately against gays and gay marriage. So fond of the gay community. At least thousands of emails would show Hillary Clinton's true views about Americans in the titled regarding one chain in DOMA, Defense of Marriage Act, 2015, we see that Hillary Clinton's stance on gay marriage hasn't changed since 2004. Hillary Clinton spoke against gay people and gay marriage. Clinton declared that marriage is a sacred bond between man and woman. In the leaked email, In the leaked email, Clinton staffers are stuck working around Clinton's disapproval of gays. They try to tiptoe around the issue without offending the Clintons. And the quote here says, I think everyone agrees we shouldn't restate the argument. Question is whether she's going to agree to explicitly disavow it. I doubt it. I'm not saying double down or ever say it again. I'm just saying that she's not going to want to say she was wrong about that. Given she and her husband believe and have repeated it many times, better to reiterate opposition to DOMA when court considered it and forward-looking stance. Clinton seemed confident she has gay voters in her pocket, but that may change. Many gay voters are realizing the damage she could bring to the LGBT communities. An influx of refugees from anti-gay countries is a major conflict with deadly implications for gays. Many refugees share common value that they should kill gays by throwing them off buildings or executed if outed. These values arrive with refugees, and they don't dissipate after time when spent in the West. Over half of the UK's Muslim population think homosexuality should be illegal. This reality works to Donald Trump's advantage. Trump is the only candidate to speak firmly against radical Islamic terrorists. Trump is growing a gay audience at a very important time. The Orlando terrorist attack was the worst mass shooting in modern America. As soon as the tragedy occurred, citizens looked toward our leaders to see how they'd react. Barack Obama said the following. During his Obama speech, he gave condolences to the families for the death of their loved ones, but was quick to place the blame for this at the feet of those who support the Second Amendment. This issue is that Democrats aren't discussing the reason this attack took place. Islamic terrorism is on the rise. Their anti-gay ideology is killing our citizens, and the so-called gay-supporting Democrats have turned a blind eye. So there's the information on the WikiLeaks. The next one we have here is off of Natural News. It says Hillary Clinton wants to serve as suicide cult leader for the final chapter of the destruction of America. We saw it in all the debates last night. Hillary Clinton wants background checks for gun purchases, but not for immigrants. She's completely clueless about why Obamacare is imploding and wants us all to believe that her new promise on fixing the failed system will be more credible than the old promise that turned out to be fraudulent lies. Hillary Clinton is a congenital liar who lies about lying. When caught lying, she proclaims her accuser is the liar and that she alone has a monopoly on the truth, but it's far worse than that, really. When you look at her policies, the hatred in her heart pointed out by Trump, the criminality the money laundering, the threats against female victims of bill sexual assaults, the violation of national security laws, and the psychopathic personality she exhibits. It's clear that Hillary Clinton wants to be the leader of America's suicide cult. The madness of liberalism has almost no bounds. You've heard me call it a mental disease, and it's that and more. It's suicidal cult, says Michael Savage in his new book, Scorched Earth, Restoring the Country After Obama. Liberalism itself is a religion, and it's a suicidal one everywhere you turn. Jerry Brown signing an euthanasia bill and acting as though it's something wholesome and good for the people. We know what it is. It's a death cult. Jerry Brown is leading a death cult in the state of California, and typically progressiveness always holds up their madness as something progressive. What Jerry Brown is doing to California, Hillary Clinton wants to do to the entire nation. The suicide will be initiated from many simultaneous vectors. Let's examine them. Hillary Clinton's suicide pact for destroying America. Number one, economic suicide. Leading the liberal suicide cult, America's national debt will continue to skyrocket while joblessness and homelessness worsen across the country. Hillary is economically illiterate and has never run a company or earned an honest dollar in her entire life. Number two, cultural suicide. Under Clinton, the cult leader, America continue its insane descent into transgenderism worship, LGBT bigotry towards straight people, racially motivated attacks against Caucasians, Black Lives Matter executions of police officers, and open race wars in the streets of American cities. While all this is happening, Hillary Clinton will continue Obama's absurd policy of demanding sensitivity toward radical Islamic terrorists while replacing straight white Christians in the military with gay pride soldiers and commanders who think the purpose of military is to serve as an exhibitionism platform for progressivism. Number three, healthcare suicide. Obamacare is already in the accelerated end stages of crashing and burning. Under Hillary Clinton presidency, your monthly health insurance cost would double in just 4 years. And the deductibles for many families would rise to $25,000 or more. Like all brain-dead Democrats, Hillary would force employers to pay even more money to cover employees, resulting in massive job losses, offshoring, and slashing of full-time workers. Number four, vaccine suicide. Never forget that Hillary Clinton is pro-vaccine. She thinks vaccines should be injected into every man, woman, and child, even without their consent. Of medical police state, and she thinks nothing of using government coercion, gunpoint medicine, to force people to destroy the health of their children with mandated destructive medical interventions. Plus, big pharma, huge money. Surprised? Open border suicide is number five. It says it has now come out that in the leaked Podesta emails that Hillary wants open borders, meaning she wants to eliminate America's borders entirely by obliterating national borders. She will achieve Obama's ultimate goal of occupying and overrunning America with enemies who will destroy it from within. Under a Clinton regime, America would become a festering beachhead for Islamic terrorism and a human wave of impoverished, disease-ridden illegals from South America who want all the free food stamps, free housing, free health care, and free education benefits that Democrats are handing out like candy without any clue how to ultimately pay for it all because Democrats are economically illiterate. Number six, national defense suicide. Obama has already disseminated the U.S. military, and it's all delivered. He laundered $1.7 billion in cash to hand it over to Iran, a terrorist state with nuclear ambitions. He purged constitutional commanders out of the high-ranking positions across the armed services, and Clinton, for her part, wholly violated national security laws by running her own private non-secured email server where she openly trafficked classified documents that could be easily intercepted or hacked by almost anyone. Clinton, the suicide cult leader, into the White House, she'll finish the job that Obama started, the job of gutting America from the inside out, obliterating it, and making it ready for enemy occupation. Number 7, educational suicide. Under Hillary, America's failed education system would continue to be monopolized by incompetent government and deeply corrupted NEA. School choice will never be offered to parents because cultists like Hillary don't want the poorest Americans to ever learn so much that they figure out the poverty trap scams of the liberals. Expect an acceleration of the Common Core agenda, which now praises children for getting the wrong answers on math problems, as long as they feel strongly about the reason for their failure. Liberalism is an autoimmune disorder. No nation in history has ever done to itself what this nation is doing to itself right now, says Michael Savage. When you see article after article telling people who are white to be ashamed of their race by people who claim not to be racist, if that's not insanity, tell me what is. When you see radical sick feminists attack boys and say that large muscles are a sign of aggressiveness, tell me that's not mental illness. Tell me what is going to be required to save this nation from self-destruction. In his book, Scorched Earth, Restoring the Country After Obama, Savage goes on to explain this is a nation deep in the throes of an illness. It would be too easy to call it a mental illness, which I've done since 2005. Liberalism is a mental disorder. I redefine the illness America is suffering from as an autoimmune disease. America is suffering the equivalent of political AIDS. It is an autoimmune disease, which a retrovirus has invaded the country and encrypted itself into the DNA of the nation, and is destroying the nation from within. The virus is called Democratic Socialist Party. That is the virus that has invaded this country, that is destroying the nation from within. Now, if you want more of it, go vote for Grandma. Is more social breakdown is what you want. That's what you're going to get. Where cop killers are invited to her White House as the police they killed are buried. This article goes on some more if you want to read more on that. Gist of it here. I thought it was an interesting article explaining a little bit more about what she stands for. The next one is off Gateway Pundit. It says, of course, Dem operative claims investigation of voter fraud at liberal Indiana group is racism. Information on the Indiana voter fraud deal the other day, and I did an article about voter fraud on LHN last week. And this is a little bit more about what's going on in Indiana. It says, yesterday afternoon, Jim Hoft wrote about a Democrat-backed group in Indiana which was raided by police and is now being investigated for voter fraud. With the group has responded the way Democrats always respond. It's racism. WIBC reports Indiana State Police Secretary of State responded to charges of racism. Indiana Secretary of State Connie Lawson and the Indiana State Police responded to charges of the harassment and racism leveled by a Democratic operative associated with the organization being investigated for potential voter fraud by the ISP. Craig Varoga, I guess that's pronounced Craig Varoga, the founder of the Patriot Majority, one of the groups being investigated, accused both the ISP and Secretary Lawson in a statement soon after the second investigation was launched. After all is said and done, when this partisan investigation finds no wrongdoing by the organization, Connie Lawson and the Indiana State Police will have prevented 45,000 African Americans from voting in this year's elections. That's why today we reported their outrageous actions to the Department of Justice. That's what he's had to say about it. In an exclusive interview on WIBC, ISP Chief Public Information Officer Captain David Bernstein refuted the claims of Varoga. That we are trying to disenfranchise 45,000 African American voters. I want to make it perfectly clear that we didn't take any of the voter registration cards, we copy them. That's false and misleading and baiting statement. He wants to draw attention away from the fact that the actions of people employed by the IVRP actually can disenfranchise voters. These people are taking real names, false addresses, false names, false addresses, false dates of birth. They are the ones possibly disenfranchising voters. Democrats have made this charge so callously over the last 8 years, it's amazing they think anyone believes them anymore. So there you have that. You know, caught in their wrongdoing, and they always want to blame somebody else. Some kind of big chatter. Let's see. Next one's off of Breitbart.com. Let's see here if we can get this ad to go away off of it so I can read it. All right. Supporters at Pennsylvania Trump rally chant CNN sucks. Voters chanted CNN sucks during a campaign rally for Donald Trump in Pennsylvania Monday night. I'm telling you, they are so dishonest. Without the media, Hillary Clinton couldn't be elected dog catcher, Trump stated. CNN is a disgrace. The Republican nominee then alleged CNN turned off its camera as he was criticizing the network. Trump proclaimed while bashing his opponent Hillary Clinton during the campaign rally in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. 10,000 people, according to Fox News, at the Mohegan Sun Arena at Casey Plaza. WikiLeaks has been slowly revealing controversial emails from Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta. Clinton said that terrorism is not a threat to the nation, Trump read from a piece of paper to the crowd, saying she made that comment during a paid speech behind closed doors. Let me tell you, terrorism is a big threat, Trump declared. ISIS could infiltrate with the refugees. Trump also referenced an email about Benghazi from Sidney Blumenthal, who he called Sleazy Sidney. The attack was almost certainly preventable. Clinton was in charge of the State Department, Trump stated, reading from his notes on the email. If GOP wants that to raise that as a talking point against her, it is legitimate. Trump claimed she is now admitting they could have done something about Benghazi. The crowd booed in reaction and chanted, "Lock her up." What a group we have, Trump responded. So there you have news about his rally. We have here is off of conservativetribune.com, and it says, follow Trump all the way to the White House. Or no, let's see, that's not it. Let's try this. Here we go. It says, alert, UN makes sneak move to stop Trump from advancing his American First agenda. The European Union executed a preemptive strike against GOP presidential nominee Donald Trump Tuesday by ratifying the United Nations Paris Agreement. This sudden move made it virtually impossible for Trump to cancel or renegotiate the international climate change deal, as he had previously promised to do, according to The Hill. The deal was slated to go into effect within 30 days, long before Trump would move into the White House, where in the 2016 presidential election. This meant that energy producers were stuck with having to reduce their emissions by 26 to 28% no later than 2025. How the UN operates and what draconian nonsense it wants to rope us into, the small wonder Trump has taken a dim view of its policy preferences and has emphasized the needs of the U.S. The candidate's vision for American First energy policy was just flushed down the drain, apparently. Even worse, it was the claim that GOP candidate's staunch opposition to the deal had reportedly played a pivotal role in spurring its ratification. Stimulates this rapid series of ratifications, China, the USA, Europe, and many others, said Robert Stavins, director of the Harvard Project on Climate Agreements. Thankfully, there was a small ray of sunshine in the darkness, namely that the deal was non-binding, meaning that the next president could choose to circumvent it if he or she desires. Doing this, however, could be more difficult than it sounded. Yes, he could slow down the action on climate change, but not as dramatically as he may think he could, said John, the global climate policy director at the Sierra Club. The one thing that the president would have in his or her favor, however, was the opportunity to appoint the next Supreme Court. Were Trump to be next president, a conservative justice probably would be appointed, and that would bode well for Trump plans to undo this horrible deal, according to William Yeatman at the Conservative Competitive Enterprise Institute. If you control the presidency, then you can exert a huge amount of power, he explained. You can basically not implement your commitments to suffer anything on the world stage. For the sake of Trump's America First policy, let's hope he's right. Please share this story, it says. You have that information on the UN. The next one that we have here is off of Brigaded, and it says, repeating the GOP sabotage of Barry Goldwater. You remember Barry Goldwater, right? Goldwater was crass. Goldwater made rude statements. Goldwater had a trigger finger with nuclear weapons. The quintessential moderate Republican Nelson Rockefeller called Goldwater's rhetoric dangerous and frightening. Sound familiar? But Goldwater fought back, and he fought hard. His convention speech had 32 instances of the word Republican in a 3,100-word rebuke of the establishment, compared to just 3 in the 4,900 words of Reagan's convention address. 52 years later, Democrats and Republicans are saying the same thing for a different Republican presidential candidate, Donald Trump. Every Republican candidate expects Democrats to label them a reckless, warmongering, woman-hating, Ku Klux Klan Manchurian candidate because it happens every 4 years. Goldwater's campaign slogan was, "In your heart, you know he's right." Democrat Lyndon Johnson released the infamous Daisy ad of the little girl dying in the nuclear apocalypse with the counter slogan, "In your gut, you know he's nuts." Okay, fine, we saw that one coming. But Republican sabotage hurts. Pennsylvania Governor William Scranton called Goldwater's platform a crazy quilt collection of absurd and dangerous positions, and that Barry too casually prescribed nuclear war as a solution to a troubled war. Nelson Rockefeller, then Republican governor of New York, formal disavowal of extremism. Today we see the same from Speaker Paul Ryan rallying against our nominee, using the same baseless cliche attacks that the left used against him and Romney in 2012. Why? Trump's motivational book, Think Like a Champion, has short analysis of New York Times opinion piece by Stephen King on the publishing scene. King said young writers are writing for editors and teachers rather than for their readers. Trump commented that Stephen King is astutely acknowledging that the short story writers of today are protecting their assets by targeting their writing to people who will most likely be able to get to that point. And so it is with the Never Trumpers, protecting their assets by appealing to their paycheck signing audience rather than the actual voters. Pundits post themselves as kingmakers among their fellow king-making pundits by declaring each other legitimate kingmakers, making them de facto guardians of the conventional wisdom template for the good candidate. Faithfully married, like Romney, outwardly religious, Santorum and Huckabee, memorized every Heritage Foundation talking point since Eisenhower was Faorna. Distinguished reputation among the mainstream media after decades condemning conservatives was McCain. At least 2 of the following must be true to win the Latino vote, which is half Hispanic, Rubio, and open borders, Kucinich, and married to a Mexican and has killer guac recipes, Bush. As you can see, the template falls somewhere between Mitt Romney, sans the binders full of women, and Vicente Fox, sans the slick Dago mustache, which for the Templetarians let them go to Jeb, sans the last name. Young pups inside the Beltway, sick of getting everyone's coffee, know that to get invited to the Ivory Tower, you must critically apply the template of the wise sages to this election field of candidates in an incestuous ideological nepotism. The kingmakers of yesteryear decide who will succeed their place in society based on who most enthusiastically applies the template. Thus, the template changes very little from generation to generation of narcissistic, self-appointed kingmakers. They're like the young writers that intentionally appeal to the New Yorker while neglecting the consuming public. When Republican voters said we were hungry for a plain-spoken candidate who would actually fight for us rather than kowtow to open borders crowd, the templetarians said, let them eat cake. Then Donald Trump stormed the Bastille. Pundits predicted elections according to how well the candidate fits the template. Their legitimacy, circles of Dayton, Ohio, replies on accurate predictions. Nate Silver became a Beltway celebrity and Karl Rove a Beltway bum because of how their 2012 predictions panned out. In 2016, templetarians predicted that Trump, like Goldwater before, does not fit the template and therefore will go down in flames. Now they must fulfill that prophecy, just like 1964, the templetarians spent the entire election sabotaging the outsider who doesn't fit the template so they can eventually say, we told you so. Republican templetarians are sabotaging the Trump campaign, so in 4 years they can resume the proper role as kingmaker and anoint whichever Bush descendant can best recite the Reagan and Espinol. So there you have that. The next one we have here is off of RT.com. It says, Putin, Russia, Turkey call for urgent end to bloodshed in Syria. Vladimir Putin and his Turkish counterpart, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, have urged a swift end to the bloodshed in war-torn Syria following talks between the two leaders in Istanbul on Monday. Both Russia and Turkey stand for the earliest cessation of bloodshed in Syria. In Russia, we think that a political statement must happen as soon as possible. We suppose that everybody who wants peace should support this proposal, Putin said. According to Putin, both Moscow and Ankara backed the proposal of UN Special Envoy for Syrian staff. For Syria, Staffan de Mistura, regarding the removal of militants from Aleppo. Together with the Turkish president, we agreed to do everything to support de Mistura's initiative on the withdrawal of military units, which refused to lay down their arms from Aleppo in order to end violence, he said. The Russian president said that he and Erdogan have agreed to strengthen contact between the countries, militaries, and intelligence agencies. He added that Moscow is ready to develop large-scale military technical cooperation with Ankara, and this sides are now studying various projects. The Turkish military operation in Syria and ways to cooperate in providing aid to civilians in the city of Aleppo were discussing during the talks of Istanbul on Monday, Erdogan said. Turkish militaries, as well as intelligence services and diplomats from the two countries, will continue to work together on the provision of humanitarian aid in Syria, he added. We thoroughly discussed Syrian issue. We talked about Turkish and Freight's shield operation and evaluate ways we can cooperate in this direction. We specifically talked about what strategy we may choose in order to help from a humanitarian point of view the inhabitants who are in dire situation, especially in Aleppo, Erdogan said. We have common stance with Turkey regarding what must be done to deliver humanitarian aid to Aleppo. The issue is ensuring security for the deliverance of this cargo, Putin said. During the talks, the two leaders agreed to speed up the work on construction of aid. Let me try that one more time. Goodness gracious. During the talks, the two leaders agreed to speed up the work on construction of such virtual joint projects as the Turkish Stream steam gas pipeline and the Ayu nuclear power plant. I guess I pronounced that right. The Turkish president said. Before the two leaders addressed the media, an intergovernmental agreement on the Turkish steam pipeline. I don't know why I'm having problems with that today. Steam pipeline was signed in their presence. Regarding the signing of the Turkish steam pipeline deal, Putin said that Moscow and Ankara are moving forward with plans to create a major energy hub in Turkey. And there's some videos in this if you'd like to take a look at that one. See them say it correctly. I don't know why I had such a problem with that one. The next one is off telegraph.a. Says, Mikhail Gorbachev warns world is at dangerous point amid U.S.-Russian face-off over Syria. I think most of us remember Gorbachev. It says here, soaring tensions between the United States and Russia have brought the world to a dangerous point, Mikhail Gorbachev warned on Monday. The former Soviet leader intervention came amid a collapse in East-West relations over the war in Syria that has seen the Kremlin openly threaten to shoot down Western aircraft, drawing comparisons with the worst crisis of the Cold War. I think the world has reached a dangerous point, Mr. Gorbachev, age 85, told the state news agency RIA Novosti. I don't want to give any concrete prescriptions, but I do want to say this needs to stop. We need to renew dialogue. Stopping it was the biggest mistake. The United States suspended months of talks with Russia over Syria on October 3rd, accusing Russia of ripping up a ceasefire deal in order to launch a relentless aerial assault on rebel-held areas of Aleppo. John Kerry, the U.S. Secretary of State, called on Russia and the Syrian government to be investigated for war crimes over Aleppo campaign, a call that was echoed by France's foreign minister on Monday. Russia, in response, has accused the U.S. of unfriendly actions and deployed nuclear-capable missiles exclave of Kaliningrad and warned that it would shoot down Western aircraft if the U.S. launched airstrikes against pro-government targets in Syria. Vladimir Putin also pulled out of arms control agreement aimed at reprocessing weapons-grade plutonium and demanded the U.S. roll back its military commitment to NATO members in Eastern Europe, saying that expansion of the alliance had threatened Russian security. It is necessary to return to the main priorities, these nuclear disarmament, the fight against terrorism, the prevention of environmental disaster, Mr. Gorbachev said in a rare intervention in global affairs. Compared to these challenges, all the rest slips into the background, he added. Mr. Gorbachev ruled the Soviet Union from 1985 until it broke up in 1991. He is widely credited with ending the Cold War and building the architecture of nuclear arms control in a series of summits with Ronald Reagan. He has rarely intervened in politics since, but has spoken out to criticize both the Kremlin and the West over collapse in relations. In 2014, he blamed America's triumphalism for fueling what he warned could become a new Cold War. The recent collapse of relations with the West has been accompanied by open speculation that the Russian media about dangers of all-out war with the U.S. Some public figures have compared the confrontation over Syria with the Cuban Missile Crisis. Frank-Walter Steinmeier, the German foreign minister, warned last week that it's a fallacy to think that this is like the Cold War. The current times are different and more dangerous. On Monday, Russia said it would expand its current naval facility at the Syrian post of Tartus into the permanent base. The announcement followed the ratification by the Russian parliament of a treaty allowing indefinite deployment of Russian forces to the country. Russia is also reported to be considering establishing a military presence in Egypt for the first time since the Cold War. Moscow and Cairo are discussing options for renting several bases, including the Soviet era air base near Sidi Barani, Izvestia, a pro-government daily paper, reported on Monday. Russia said it's sending 5,000 paratroopers to take part in joint exercises in Egypt later this month, in a move that signifies Middle Eastern ambition well beyond Syria. And this goes on. It has several talking points like, why is Russia bombing Syria? Why would Russia bomb non-ISIL groups? What Russia position on President Assad? So if you want to read all of that, you're welcome to do so. And the URL is in the description of the video. The next one we have here is off the Washington Post. Health condition worsen as aid trickles into remote Haiti. Says, in this most western tip of Haiti, 300 patients with festering wounds lay silently on beds at the main hospital in the seaside village of Dame Marie, waiting for medicine a week after Hurricane Matthew hit the remote peninsula. Among the injured was Bovar Luckner, a cobbler and farmer who walked 12 kilometers, 7 miles in 3 days, after a tree crushed his leg and killed his mother when it fell on their house. His leg might have to be amputated, but all the doctors can do is clean the wounds because the hospital has run out of everything, including painkillers. There's no water, no antibiotics. Dr. Herbie Jean told the Associated Press, everything is depleted. We hear helicopters flying overhead, but we're not getting anything. There was also no power, and frustration grew on Tuesday as food, medicine, and fresh water kept arriving at the main city's Haiti southwest peninsula, but was slow to reach increasingly desperate communities like Dame Marie. Meanwhile, Luckner lay on a mattress with no sheets and a bandage around his left leg. It took a lot of misery to get here, and now that I'm here, there's still misery, he said. Meanwhile, at a cramped police station serving as a makeshift clinic in the nearby town of Marfranc, Darlene Dozier fastened IV drips to jail cell bars, wiped the brows of cholera patients, and tended to the wounds of those injured in the storm. She was the only health worker helping out 40 patients inside the station, bereft of police, as she waited for help to arrive. Among the patients was an elderly woman lying unconscious on the jail cell floor with a leg bandaged in an old rag, and a man with gashes around his neck, his eyes fluttering. People will die soon if we don't get some aid, an overwhelming dossier told the AP. The UN humanitarian agency in Geneva has made an emergency appeal for nearly $120 million in aid, saying about 750,000 people in southwest Haiti alone will need life-saving assistance and protection in the next 3 months. UN officials said earlier that at least 1.4 million people across the region need assistance, and that 2.1 million overall have been affected by the hurricane. Some 175,000 people remain in shelters. Electricity was still out, water and food were scarce, and officials said young men in villages along the road between the hard-hit cities of Les Cayes and Jeremy were building blockades of rocks and broken branches to halt relief convoys. The National Civil Protection Headquarters in Port-au-Prince raised official nationwide death toll to 372, which includes at least 198 deaths in Grand Anse, but local officials have said the toll in Grand Anse alone tops 500. The UN also said the hurricane has increased the risk of a renewed spike in the numbers of cholera cases. A cholera outbreak since 2010 has already killed roughly 10,000 people and sickened more than 800,000. Roosevelt Zamos of Civil Protection Agency said there were 40 cases of cholera in Jeremy alone. He said 8 people have died of cholera in Grand Anse since the storm. It can take from 12 hours to 5 days for cholera symptoms to appear after ingesting contaminated food or water, according to the World Health Organization. The open-air cholera treatment center at Jeremy's main hospital had no running water on Monday, and at least a dozen of the new patients were under age 10. Dr. Thierry Francois, lead doctor for the Ministry of Health at the Cholera Center, said he didn't know how many new cases had been caused by the storm nationwide. Certainly there are cases we don't know anything about, he said, referring to still isolated areas. People in southern seaside community of Les Anglais and surrounding areas said little to no aid had reached them. An aid group tried to distribute food and other emergency supplies by boat on Sunday, but it was forced to leave after a large crowd gathered and began to fight. An estimated 158 people died in Les Angeles, and 2 police officers declined to give their names because they were not authorized to talk to the media. Francis Jean, a 42-year-old farmer and taxi driver, was awaiting help after he, his wife, and 3 daughters survived the storm, but lost their roof and all their belongings. You can't even explain what happened here. I've never seen anything like this in my life, he said. This town doesn't exist anymore. There's nothing. So there's the news from Haiti. Rather discerning. The next one that we have here is off of daisyluther.com, and it's about subliminal messaging and predictive programming, how they work and why some people are immune. Today, just for fun, we're going to go down a rabbit hole of how entertainment and the media are manipulating people. Some of this is sheer speculation, some of it is provable fact, and all of it requires that you don your full array of tinfoil. If you want to go down deeper, this book will blow your mind. This has been going on for decades. These techniques are used to reduce resistance to upcoming tyranny, to change opinions of large groups of people and let them think it was their own idea, and to subtly program the brains of masses while they think they're just enjoying some entertainment. The only good news in this article is that some of us are less susceptible to this type of manipulation. How do we become less susceptible? By understanding how it all works. We build up sort of an immunity. We see when we are being subjected to these shenanigans a lot more readily and are able to say, hey, that's not how I feel about this topic at all. What is predictive programming? There have been tons of articles and almost as many theories about predictive programming. Predictive programming is when events are depicted in a TV or movie show that later come to pass. You can search and come up with hundreds of hits for movies and shows ranging from Sandy Hook map in Dark Knight Rises to Simpsons predicting the Ebola outbreak and the death of Prince. Oh, and the author of the Hunger Games trilogy, Suzanne Collins, lives in Sandy Hook, and her books deal with child sacrifices. I'm just saying. Weird, right? At least sometimes coincidences do happen. For example, in 1898, Morgan Robertson wrote a novel called Futility about a ship called the Titan that hit an iceberg on its maiden voyage. 14 years later, the Titanic sank after hitting an iceberg on its maiden voyage. You can read more about the similarities between the book and the real event here, and there's a link you can click. It says, now, in this case, I really doubt that the author arranged for White Star Lines to commission a ship called the Titanic and then had it sink in mid-April after hitting an iceberg the first time it left port. Other forms of predictive programming aren't so clairvoyant or specific, but are predictive in that they reflect a way of life. So why would they do this? It's proposed that by mimicking a change that is desired by those in power, resistance to that change can be minimized because people have seen it happen already. It's easier for them to accept the change because it's been normalized through the media. Here are a few examples from an article by the coincidence theorists. In the 1998 blockbuster The Siege, New York is attacked by terrorists and is subsequently locked into state of martial law. This could have prepared viewers for the World Trade Center attacks and the controversial legislation that followed, such as the USA Patriot Act, the President's Surveillance Program, and the creation of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Someone who tolerated World War Z was not only exposed to the much repeated theme of deadly pandemics, but was also conditioned to accept that a vaccine from the World Health Organization might be humanity's only hope of survival. A person who watched Minority Report in 2002 might be less alarmed when technologies when technologies such as facial recognition, retina scanning, driverless cars, predictive crime fighting, and personalized advertising start to become commonplace in their own reality. Did RoboCop prepare people for police militarization and the introduction of robotic policing? Even a Futurama fan might have been subtly preconditioned to accept this concept of microchip implants. The article goes on to link significant terror events like 9/11 and 7/7, as well as events like moon landing. It's really great piece until you get to the conclusion, and he says it's all baloney, even after he provided a ton of interesting evidence to support the case of predictive programming as a tool of familiarization. When I lived in Canada, I noticed that they expressed the message that guns were terrifying on a regular basis on Canadian TV. The popular show Flashpoint was a police procedural about an SRU team in Toronto. SRU is the Canadian version of SWAT. Whenever a civilian saw a person with a gun in a car or a gun in a desk drawer, they completely freaked out. They immediately phoned the police, and sometimes they hid in closets, whispering in terror to 9/11 operator. They needed to be saved because, by golly, guns will kill you. Guns are strictly controlled in Canada, and this was just a reinforcement of the message that the government was protecting citizens by keeping firearms away from them, as well as the message that you must immediately phone the officials should one be seen. What is the subliminal messaging? Subliminal messaging is way more subtle than predictive programming. Messages are played to individuals or the public without them being aware of it. Messages may be a visual flash in a series of other pictures that you don't consciously pick up on, but your subconscious registers the image. One example would be a movie where frame 25 in a sequence of 40 images moving at 30 frames per second flashes the name of a product, a person, or whatever other information the producers want you to take in. Even if you don't believe in your conscious mind that subliminal messaging can have any effect on you, your unconscious mind has no such view. It accepts what is sent to it without question. When companies advertise, politicians stand on the stage, or gangs roam down the street, we see their colors with the sign, symbol, or slogan that defines them. It's all marketing and branding, and subliminal messaging can get the message into your brain without you knowingly visualizing it. And it works. Multi-million-dollar industry has been crested from self-help tapes and CDs that are played while a person sleeps to improve some aspect of the person's life. Experiments with inserting a subliminal message about snacks right before a break in a movie increases snack sales during the break. This technique is heavily used by companies with products to sell. The uncomfortable thing is, unless you instructed someone to put the message in there or you put them there yourself, there is no way you can know if you're being subjected to such suggestions. Here's exactly how fast that can happen, plus some information on why it works so effectively. And there is a video that you can watch there about it. It says creepy, right? So what happens if the messages aren't just about buying soda and some popcorn? What if they are rather more insidious in their nature? What if we are being manipulated every time we turn on the TV and watch a movie, or even turn on our computers? Some of us are aware of the dumbing down of our young people, their total addiction to their smartphones, tablets, and laptops, the hours and hours they watch TV. Kids are completely addicted to their screens. If someone wants to use screens as a mind control method, then it makes perfect sense to get kids dependent on the screens while they're young. They can be programmed from the very beginning to be good little consumers and pay for it by being wage slaves. Nearly everyone has a smartphone these days, which means we all carry mind control devices around in our pockets or purses. Why doesn't it work for some of us? taking it a step further, what if some people are genetically more susceptible than others? What if some of us are immune to this constant bombardment of images, words, and ideas that most people seem to buy without question? Could this be the difference between the vast majority of the people and those of us that are awake and aware? Are we just mutants? Is this why I can explain this stuff until I lose my voice and just get blank stare from people who think that I'm a crazy one? The vast majority of people in the United States are completely accepting of the official messages. They believe the government will be there to save them in all circumstances. They don't question or inquire. They simply accept what they're told. They don't share our fears that something big is on the horizon. They exist in a bubble that and don't look at the big picture. They refuse to prepare for bad things because they honestly don't believe it's possible that those things will happen. Most people like us, those who are aware, the self-sufficient minority, watch less TV than the masses. Some of us watch no TV at all. I watch a few shows on Netflix or Amazon Prime, but we don't have cable TV with its commercials and news. We have other things to do, things that will help us when their soldiers are on the street for our own protection, things that will help us or help our kids survive when the store shelves are empty and the majority relies on government rations to live, if they behave well enough to get one, that is, and behave they will, because hunger is a massive motivator to do as you're told. Even if you have a tendency to be mind controlled, it's possible to snap out of it. I was always the tinfoil clad blogger you see before today. When I was in my early 20s, I truly did believe that the government agencies like EPA and the FDA were looking out for our best interest, that food or medicine wouldn't be sold if it was harmful, that schools truly were in the business of educating children. Most of us have to shake off our early training at the hands of the education system and the television. And sort of like in the movie The Matrix, if you can get someone to swallow the red pill, they become a lot less willing to believe whatever they're fed. Subliminal messaging can change people's views, can change the way you think, can change what they want you to eat, what car they want you to buy, or maybe even how they vote. All you need is the cash to get your message out there and buy a few split seconds of screen time. It can sow the seeds that make acceptance of abnormal and dangerous situations easier. It can teach people not to question and teach people not to question and to be good little sheep. Sitting for hours in front of the television, mindlessly watching the drivel produced by companies who call it entertainment, is brainwashing people and turning them into idiots, making the best current day example of predictive programming the movie Audiocracy. All you have to do is look around and you'll see it's here. So there's that article for you. I thought that was very interesting about mind control. The next one that we have is a recall. So some of you, after you get off here, might want to go and check your freezer. Drumstick ice cream cones after listeria test. So, if you like ice cream and if you buy the little drumsticks, you might want to check the freezer. It says Nestle launched nationwide recall of some of its drumstick ice cream cones after getting positive tests for listeria in a California factory where its treats are made. No one has been reported sick, and none of the drumstick products have tested positively for listeria, according to U.S. Food and Drug Administration. The company got positive test results for listeria on its equipment located on a production line at its facility in Bakersfield, California, according to company statement. The voluntary recall includes Drumstick Club 16-count variety pack and the 24-count vanilla pack, which were made between August 31st and September 17th. The affected product identification codes are available on the FDA website, and that is a hyperlink for you to click on if you can get the product ID code and click on that link and check and make sure yours is not on that list. If it is, you need to throw it out. Nestle said it detected the problem through its internal testing, but that the products were inadvertently shipped to stores due to an error logging receipt of the test result. The company urged customers not to eat the ice cream and to return them to where they were purchased or contact Nestle Consumer Services. Be deadly. Listeria can cause serious, sometimes fatal infections in young children, the elderly, and others with weak immune systems. Symptoms include high fever, severe headache, stiffness, abdominal pain, and diarrhea. Although some people might suffer only short-term symptoms, Listeria can also cause miscarriages and stillbirths for pregnant women. In the United States, an estimated 1,600 people become seriously ill with Listeria each year. About 16% of these cases result in death. Nestle. It's not like the Bluebell recall. Last year, Bluebell ice cream recalled all of its products after a deadly outbreak of Listeria. In all, 10 people in 4 states were infected and hospitalized, and 3 people died in Kansas. Nestle stated that while both recalls involved Listeria and ice cream, the similarities end there. Our situation is much different from Bluebell's in a number of significant ways, including, number 1, we have received no reports of human illness. Number 2, we have no Listeria findings in the ice cream itself, just the equipment. Number 3, we have only one product line affected. Number 4, we have only one facility affected. And number 5, we self-identified this event and took precautionary steps to recall the product, it said in a statement. Well, that doesn't exactly make you queen for a day in my book. I mean, you know, you're not keeping stuff clean, or you wouldn't have a Listeria outbreak, but hey, that's just my opinion. The next one we have here is your feel good for the day, and it's going to be a screen share video. I know you love it when I do the screen share videos, so we're going to do one here for you. It's only a couple minutes long, and be your feel good for the day. So let's try this here. The screen share, and then we'll make this big and we'll play her for you.
Nice. Christmas came early for Lee Haas. Delivered just in time.
I thought, we got to do something. We got to do something. We can't let a human being live like this.
When I first delivered to him.
2 months ago, Domino's driver Angela Wynn made her weekly delivery to Lee.
Good morning, Lee.
He was living in a 10-foot trailer. No heat, no plumbing, no electricity. After the death of his son, he'd given up.
We'll keep you warm this winter and loved.
Wynn had enough.
There's no way somebody can live like that and be fine. So you just step in and you do what you got to do.
So she turned to the internet, starting a Facebook page and GoFundMe site for Lee, hoping to help a man with nowhere to go.
We got donations from as far as Australia.
$32,000 later,
Are you ready to come home?
they bought Lee a new home. This the first time Lee has seen his new trailer.
Do you remember when this started?
You remember when I promised you we were going to come?
Inside, volunteers meet the man they vowed to help for the very first time.
It's wonderful. So grateful for the people doing this. Oh,
Everything inside, furnished by the community.
We got groceries for you already.
oh wow.
You're not going to go hungry.
This place is big.
This is your bathroom. Fully stocked as well.
That's a beauty.
A new bedroom, big enough to fit his old trailer.
It's for every single one of us enjoyed doing this. This ain't all for Lee. We all benefited.
Above the bed, a reminder of what matters.
And I love them. I'm very grateful. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we love you. You're going to run out of clock.
Christmas came early for Lee,
And they shouted out with glee.
thanks to now extended family.
You'll go down in history.
This is home for the holidays.
And there's your feel good for the day. Like that. Make it feller comfortable. That all happened last Christmas. And something nice for somebody. Like she said, it wasn't just for him, it was for everybody. You know, it does your heart good, does your soul good to do good things for people. If you see somebody in need, see what you can do to eliminate whatever their need is. Fix things up for them. It can be something very small or it can be something very large. I mean, that was huge. So look out for people. Don't be self-centered and just worrying about yourself all the time. And with that, I think I'm going to shut her down for today, and I want you to enjoy your day, regardless of what the weather is, wherever you are. And if it's nice outside, of course, as usual, kick off your shoes, put your feet down in the grass, soak up some earth energy, ground yourself, balance yourself, take a big, deep breath of fresh air, and be glad you woke up above ground. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.